director of Eight Men Out and two-time Academy Award nominee for Best Original Screenplay. Introduction. Warm-up. There are certain things that can only happen in a baseball game or a movie. One of them occurred when I was 6. It was 1986, and the New York Mets were about to lose the World Series, an unthinkable scenario to a boy who had only fallen in love with baseball earlier that year and assumed that his favorite team would surely win it all. Sadly, it seemed not to be. The Red Sox, up 3-2 in the series and 5-3 in the game, were preparing to pop the champagne. The Mets were down to their final out. Then Gary Carter, my favorite player, stepped to the plate and singled to left. Kevin Mitchell followed with another single. Ray Knight fought off an inside fastball and blooped it over the second baseman's head. A run scored. The Mets were within 1. That's when the movie began. Sox reliever Bob Stanley threw a wild pitch. The game was tied. As Knight danced off of second base, Mookie Wilson fouled off a couple of tough pitches, then hit a dribbler down the first base line. Bill Buckner, the usually sure-handed first baseman, was hobbled by a bad ankle, and as he moved to his left and put his glove down, the ball somehow slipped through his legs. "Behind the bag! It gets through Buckner!" exclaimed play-by-play announcer Vin Scully, his voice rising in excitement. "Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it!" I've been searching for that feeling ever since, and the only place I've ever found it is in baseball movies. Hollywood exists to provide the glorious catharsis life rarely does, but the baseball movie, a collision of two dreams, is a little different. It returns us to a heaven we've already glimpsed. Watching Roy Hobbs round the bases with sparks flying down on him at the end of The Natural, or the Indians winning a play-in game in the bottom of the 9th in Major League, brings me back to that night in 1986, when the unbelievable actually happened. Buckner blamed his error on a loose glove. Baseball fans know the truth. It was magic. Magic is the chain that links baseball history together, keeping silly fans like me on the edge of their seats through the dog days of summer when their team's playoff chances are dropping faster than a Shohei Ohtani splitter. It's all worth it. Once a week you see something in a game you've never seen before. A few times a year you'll see something you can barely wrap your mind around, and when it happens in a big spot, there's nothing better in sports. "I don't believe what I just saw," shouted Scully when Kirk Gibson, with a bad knee in one leg and a bad hamstring in the other, limped to the plate in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series and hit a game-winning pinch-hit home run against Dennis Eckersley, the game's greatest reliever. We could say the same thing about Babe Ruth calling his shot in the 32 World Series, Bobby Thompson winning the pennant with the shot heard round the world in 51, or Joe Carter hitting a walk-off homer to win the 93 World Series for the Blue Jays. Baseball is largely a game spent waiting for these moments. It's the most cinematic of all sports, and watching it triggers our primal need for drama, suspense, and even a Hollywood ending. The other sports, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, only move left to right on your television, or right to left. They make great video games. But baseball exists in 3 dimensions, with the ball zipping in one direction and then another in the same play. It's the only sport where the points are scored away from the ball. It's a game of dramatic confrontation, telling its story through faces rather than bodies. The pitcher peers in at the catcher, and the batter stares down the pitcher, like an armed standoff in a classic Western or a Tarantino flick. It's rich with perspective and thick with drama. Better still, there is time, even with the newly introduced pitch clock, to contemplate the meaning of these images. Football is war, and basketball is a dance, but baseball, in which a single moment can seemingly stretch toward the infinite, is cinema. Because of its focus on individual matchups, baseball lends itself to heroes and villains, often in the same game. The guy who made the crucial error in the top of the 9th inning can win it in the bottom. Cardinals pitcher Rick Ankiel can lose his composure on the biggest possible stage by throwing 5 wild pitches in a playoff game, leave baseball for 3 years, then return as an outfielder and hit 25 home runs in a season. In baseball, a pitcher who has only the full use of one of his arms, Jim Abbott, can not only get to the major leagues but actually throw a no-hitter. Does this happen in other sports? Not really, but I can't tell you why, except for the fact that baseball is cinema and different rules.